This video is brought to you by Brilliant. For the past few years, Armenia and Azerbaijan have been fighting over a disputed bit of land called Nagorno-Karabakh. While it looked like Azerbaijan had effectively blackmailed Armenia into ceding the territory last month, in the last few weeks negotiations have once again collapsed, this time over the issue of the so-called Zangezur Corridor, which would connect Azerbaijan to its enclave of Nakhchivan. So in this video, we're going to look at why the conflict has restarted, what the Zangezur Corridor is, and why Turkey and Iran have now got involved. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. Let's start with a bit of context. The Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict revolves around a contested region called Nagorno-Karabakh, also known as Artsakh. When the Russian Empire fell in 1918, both the newly founded First Republic of Armenia and the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic claimed it for themselves. There was a brief war in 1920 before it was reclaimed in 1923 by the Soviets, who put Nagorno-Karabakh within the Azerbaijan SSR. When the Soviet Union finally collapsed in 1991, Nagorno-Karabakh, which at the time was 80% ethnic Armenian, decided it was time to jump ship, and the legislature held a referendum on joining Armenia without the approval from the national Azerbaijani government, sparking a full-on war between Armenia and Azerbaijan over the area. By the time any sort of ceasefire was agreed in 1994, Armenia had taken control of Nagorno-Karabakh. Tens of thousands were killed, millions were displaced, and Nagorno-Karabakh was left in a sort of limbo. It's considered by most of the international community to be part of Azerbaijan, but it's de facto controlled by the Republic of Artsakh, which is basically just Armenia. Anyway, this story really begins in 2020, when Azerbaijan attacked Armenia. Armenia was basically saved by an intervention from Russia, Armenia's main security partner, who negotiated a ceasefire agreement after a month of fighting. As part of this peace agreement, Armenia agreed to, quote, guarantee the security of transport connections between Azerbaijan's mainland and its enclave of Nakhchivan. In effect, this meant that Armenia had to let Azerbaijan have access to the Zangezur Corridor, a strip of land which runs between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan, along the Armenia-Iran border. However, in the 2 years since then, the two sides have failed to come to an agreement on how to implement this part of the agreement. Azerbaijan still has access to the road, but Armenia maintains a security presence in the area. Azerbaijan claims that there was a verbal agreement that Armenia would withdraw its troops, but Armenia denies this. Anyway, Azerbaijan tried to pressure Armenia into acquiescing by attacking Armenian troops on the Azerbaijan-Armenia border in September of last year, just a few days after the Ukrainian counteroffensive in Kharkiv. Russia was too busy in Ukraine to defend Armenia this time, and essentially ignored Armenia when it tried to trigger Article 4 of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, which obligates Russia, as a fellow member of the CSTO, to come to Armenia's aid in the event of invasion. Armenia-Russia relations have been strained ever since, and the Armenian Prime Minister actually refused to sign the organization's latest joint agreement, which meant it's sort of unclear as to whether Armenia is still in the CSTO or not. Conversely, Azerbaijan was and is actively supported by Turkey, who've been providing them drones and other military tech. Then, in December, Azeri forces occupied the Lakhin Corridor, a mountainous road connecting Nagorno-Karabakh to the rest of Armenia. Until August 2022, it was controlled by Russian peacekeeping troops, but they left in August, presumably to join the Russian army in Ukraine. This amounts to a de facto siege of the 100,000 or so Armenians living in Nagorno-Karabakh, who have complained of food, fuel, and medicine shortages. Since then, the two sides have been trying to negotiate a compromise, and last month, after EU and US mediated talks, there were reports that Armenia had agreed to recognize Azerbaijan's sovereignty over Nagorno-Karabakh, presumably in an exchange for the end of the siege and the withdrawal of Azeri troops from other parts of Armenia. This might sound like a pretty rubbish deal for Armenia. After all, it essentially means Armenia has ceded its long-disputed territory for a return to the status quo. But, well, Armenia didn't really have any choice. Azerbaijan has a bigger military, Armenia doesn't have any real security partners, and they needed an end to the siege. However, it looks like the deal has been scuppered by the issue of the Zangezur Corridor. Azerbaijan wants to develop road and rail links along the corridor, with exemptions for Armenian border controls, which Armenia considers a violation of both Armenia's sovereignty and the Russia-mediated agreement signed in 2020. Today, negotiations have apparently stalled, and fighting has restarted. There have been multiple border skirmishes between the two countries, with the latest coming on Tuesday, when Azerbaijan claims Armenia shelled the border region of Sadarak. Worryingly, it looks like other larger countries are getting involved, filling the void left by Russia, especially Turkey, which is particularly keen on the corridor. Turkey and Azerbaijan have always had pretty cosy relations, largely because they're both ethnic Turks, and Turkey, as an energy importer, buys lots of natural gas from Azerbaijan. Turkey is keen on the Zangezur Corridor not just because it's mates with Azerbaijan, but also because it would significantly bolster trade and transport links between the two countries by connecting the main bit of Azerbaijan with the Nakhchivan enclave, which in turn shares a 17-kilometre border with Turkey. There's been some talk about building a gas pipeline along the corridor. Currently, Azerbaijan sends gas to Turkey via the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, which, as the name suggests, runs via Georgia. A second pipeline could mean more gas and reduced overheads, because Turkey would no longer have to pay Georgia for transit costs. The Zangezur Corridor also appeals to Erdogan's pan-Turkey aspirations, which is why Azerbaijan's president once promised Erdogan that the corridor would be a means to, quote, unite the Turkic world. However, while Turkey might like the idea, the other big player in the region, Iran, isn't so keen. Iran doesn't like the corridor, both because it's pretty friendly with Armenia, thanks to the two nations' intertwined histories, but also because it would reduce Iran's geopolitical leverage in the region. Iran's worried that any pipeline built along the Zangezur Corridor, for example, would carry more oil and gas in southern Europe, which would reduce demand for Iranian hydrocarbons and make it harder for Iran to negotiate its way out of sanctions. Iran also currently plays a pivotal role as a transit country for Azeri citizens travelling between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan, which gives it some leverage over Azerbaijan, and this would evaporate with the Zangezur Corridor. This is presumably why, earlier this month, Erdogan said the main obstacle to the corridor was no longer Armenia, but actually Iran. So you get the idea. Armenia and Azerbaijan's disagreement over the Zangezur Corridor threatens to restart a conflict that has plagued the region for at least the past few years, and could ultimately involve Turkey and Iran. Having watched an 8-minute video explaining the tense history between Armenia and Azerbaijan, it's fair to assume that you have a desire to learn and better your knowledge of modern conflicts and global politics. Well, we've got something that you might enjoy and will continue your online educational journey. Brilliant. Brilliant is an online STEM learning platform where you can learn everything from quantum computing or algebra to logical decision making. And if you don't want to learn more about the world from simply just watching YouTube videos, then you're in luck, because Brilliant actually teaches you by doing, using active learning techniques to teach you the principles behind otherwise complex subjects, and ensuring you actually understand what's going on. And rather like a good TLDR news video, Brilliant breaks topics down into accessible chunks, which you can work through whenever you have time. There's no homework, there's no deadlines, and there's no core classes. You can spend anything from a few minutes to a few hours a day accumulating new knowledge in an actually fun way. So whether you want to brush up on your basic math skills, improve your employment prospects by learning about future technologies, or just have fun with coding, you can check out everything Brilliant has to offer free for a full 30 days. Click on the link in the description. Plus, the first 200 of you will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Thanks for your support.